Ever wonder why some people are absolutely obsessed with perfectionism while others just can't stop biting their nails? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're enthusiastically unpacking Sigmund Freud's famous, and let's be honest, highly controversial map of human personality development. Freud had a very specific, heavily debated theory about exactly where our quirks and habits come from, and it all traces back to our earliest years.
We're taking a chronological journey right from birth all the way to adulthood. Here's our agenda. We'll start with the core mechanics, then move through the oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital stages before wrapping up with the modern scientific verdict.
Section 1, Core Mechanics. Let's talk about zones and fixations.
Okay, before we start the clock on childhood, we really need to define two major mechanics of Freud's theory. First up is the erogenous zone. Freud essentially proposed that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are heavily influenced by unconscious instinctual drives. And at every single stage of childhood, a different erogenous zone, meaning a specific part of the body, drives our behavior. This zone creates a central conflict, a sort of developmental puzzle that a child absolutely has to solve in order to build a healthy personality.
But what happens if they don't solve it? Well, that brings us to our second core mechanic, fixation. This is the inability to successfully move on to the next stage. Think of fixation kind of like a massive roadblock in a video game. If you don't beat that level's boss, your character carries a permanent penalty into the rest of the game. You get psychologically stuck and carry those unresolved issues right into adulthood.
So here is Freud's complete roadmap of human development, laying out the 5 distinct chronological stops on our journey to adulthood. We're going to visit each of these stops to see exactly what conflicts arise and what actually happens when we hit those developmental roadblocks.
Section 2, the oral stage. This covers birth to about a year and a half. Our journey begins right at birth. During the oral stage, the infant is completely driven by the id, our most primal instincts, constantly seeking immediate gratification. The mouth is literally the center of the infant's world, and the key relationship here, the mother. Freud believed that responsive feeding provides a baby with much more than just food. It provides crucial comfort, which creates the foundation for trust and emotional security.
But here is where the fixation trap comes in. If a baby's feeding is either lacking or, on the flip side, excessively forceful, their needs just aren't satisfied properly. If this oral stage isn't resolved, that roadblock manifests as adult habits. We're talking about things like smoking, chronic nail biting, overeating, or even using biting sarcasm. Freud argued that early feeding issues might literally show up as oral habits decades later.
Moving right along to Section 3, the anal stage, hitting those toddler years from 1.5 to 3.
So, as we move into the toddler years, the erogenous zone shifts to the anus, and the child faces their very first major societal demand, self-control. The primary event of the anal stage is, you guessed it, toilet training. This is where a child first learns society's expectations regarding cleanliness. Gentle encouragement builds independence, but Freud argued that hitting extremes during toilet training creates highly specific, lifelong fixations.
And this brilliantly illustrates the trap of fixation. Freud proposed 2 totally opposite extreme outcomes here. First, overly strict training breeds what he called the anal retentive personality, an adult who is stubbornly neat, perfectionistic, and hyper-organized. On the flip side, overly relaxed training creates the anal expulsive rebel, an adult who is messy, careless, disorganized, and impulsive. It's a pretty fascinating look at how potty training was theorized to shape your adult desk organization. Now for Section 4, the phallic stage, which covers ages 3 to 5.
Next up, we reach the most complex and definitely the most heavily debated level of Freud's entire theory, the phallic stage. Here, the focus moves to the genitals and gender differences. Freud proposed that boys experience the Oedipus complex. Essentially, a boy feels deep love for his mother and starts seeing his father as a rival. This leads to what Freud called castration anxiety, a deep fear of the father's punishment. To resolve this intense emotional conflict, the boy eventually identifies with his father, copies his behavior, and by doing so, develops a superego, or a moral conscience.
Similarly, Freud proposed that girls go through the Electra complex. In this scenario, the girl becomes emotionally attached to her father and feels a strong rivalry toward her mother. She notices anatomical differences, grappling with a concept Freud controversially termed penis envy, feelings of lack regarding male anatomy. Eventually, she resolves the conflict by identifying with her mother, adopting her values, and learning female gender roles. Keep in mind, we're looking at these concepts exactly as Freud proposed them historically.
Now, failing to clear these intense emotional hurdles leads to massive adult roadblocks.
According to Freud, men with a phallic fixation might develop deep-seated anxiety about relationships, immense guilt, or even narcissistic traits. For women, Freud controversially suggested they might never fully resolve this stage at all, potentially retaining lingering feelings of envy and inferiority for their entire lives.
Section 5, the latency and genital stages. This takes us from age 5 all the way into adulthood. After all the intense drama of the phallic stage, psychological development takes a much-needed breather during the school years. During the latency stage, there actually is no erogenous zone. Sexual impulses are largely put on pause. Instead, all that energy is temporarily redirected outward. Kids focus on building same-sex friendships, learning teamwork, playing sports, and growing intellectually. It's all about building social identity and confidence.
Finally, puberty hits and the genital stage begins. The erogenous zone returns to the genitals, but now the focus shifts toward forming mature, emotionally intimate, and healthy relationships. If you've had a successful journey through all the previous roadblocks, meaning you've resolved the oral, anal, and phallic conflicts, Freud says you are now free to love others and work productively as a healthy, well-adjusted adult.
Finally, Section 6, the modern verdict. Let's look at legacy versus science.
So we've officially reached adulthood on Freud's map. Looking at this whole psychosexual journey laid out, you can really see the chronological progression. We move through shifting erogenous zones, navigating specific conflicts, trying to avoid those specific adult personality traps Freud believed awaited us if things went wrong. It's an incredibly detailed cause and effect roadmap of human behavior.
But how does this historical explainer hold up today? Well, while concepts like the Oedipus complex and penis envy are historically monumental and culturally famous, it's absolutely crucial to state that modern science simply does not back them up. As our source material points out, these ideas are highly controversial and lack strong modern scientific evidence. Today, psychologists just don't view human development through these rigid, zone-based pipelines.
Which leaves us with a fascinating final thought to ponder. Even if Freud's specific science was flawed, just how much of your current personality do you think is actually a shadow of your earliest childhood hurdles? It's undeniable that our early environments shape us, making Freud's bold attempt to map that journey a truly unforgettable piece of psychological history. Thanks for exploring this framework with me, and keep questioning the why behind the things we do.